I think I just threw out my sermon that I preached earlier today. I love this story about Nicodemus, I really do. And I believe what it's really talking about, and I think the sign out front says something to the effect of a light shines in the darkness or something. And that's true. That's part of what the Gospel of John is all about, is that light shining in the darkness. Jesus is that light that shines in the darkness. And I like this story of Nicodemus because Nicodemus comes in the darkness. And he's looking at Jesus. He's trying to figure out why Jesus is so different from everybody else around who believes in God. Why is Jesus different? How can Jesus do these signs that he does? And Nicodemus is trying to figure that out. And Jesus is that light in that darkness that shines down on Nicodemus. You know, I try to keep up with all my readings every day. But I've got this book that sits beside my bed. It's called Jesus Always. And I try to read it every day, but yesterday I managed to miss it. And so I read it this morning after I got up. And I think it speaks a whole lot to what's going on. It says, seek to live in the present with me. That's exactly what Jesus is telling Nicodemus he has to do. Okay? This reads, your life is a gift from me consisting of millions upon millions of moments. These countless tiny gifts can easily slip away unnoticed and unused. The best remedy to such wastefulness is to fill your moments with my presence. You can begin your day connecting with me by praying. Thank you, Jesus, for this precious day of life. Help me stay aware of your presence with me. It goes on to say, thankfulness keeps you linked to me and anchored in the present. Worry, on the other hand, pulls you into the future where you wander in barren places of uncertainty. However, you can always return to me by whispering, Lord, help me. To live consistently in the present, the here and the now. Seek to become more grateful. Look around you, searching for the many gifts I shower upon you. As you thank me for these blessings, go into detail. Express yourself enthusiastically. This will increase your gratitude and enhance your ability to grasp how blessed you are. Nicodemus comes asking how he can get this Spirit of God that Jesus apparently has. And Jesus tells him, you've got to be aware of God in your presence. That Spirit, the wind blowing around you, that Spirit of God. How do we tie into that Spirit? By living with God every moment. You ever get worried about things? You ever get worried about what's going to happen later, tomorrow, whatever? I was working on my income tax yesterday. And everything was going fine until all of a sudden I'm sitting there looking at a mistake I apparently made that was going to cost me about $2,000. And you know, that worry can really begin to take over and obsess you, right? When things like that happen. It really can. And I had to sit back and finally look through everything that I had done and saw where my mistake was. Well, I didn't have time to fix it at that particular point in time, but it shouldn't take me very long to go back and fix it when I get back home. That worry was beginning to sort of eat at me until I went back and I pulled up the lessons for today and read through them. Okay, now I understand. I've got to be in the presence of God. At all times, in all places, I've got to be in the presence of God. Oh, Nicodemus, we see him in the darkness, and this is like chapter 3 in John. And he's in the darkness and he's questioning, how can this be? How can I have the kind of presence that Jesus has? And he ends up going away. But we see him come back again in the 7th chapter. And this time he stands up to the Sanhedrin, who is talking about wanting to arrest Jesus. And he stands up to them and, how can you arrest this man and condemn him without giving him a fair trial? Now, he doesn't win his argument, but at least he's beginning to come out of that darkness, to come into the light. And in the 19th chapter of John, Nicodemus comes fully into the light when he comes with Joseph of Arimathea to collect the body of Jesus for burial. He's fully been discipled from chapter 3 to chapter 19. It's sort of like most of us. We don't necessarily come to God in one great revelation like Paul had when he was still Saul and wandering around and gets this flash of light that just, does him in, blinds him for 3 days, and all of a sudden he's a Christian, right? Yeah. No, most of us come to it like Nicodemus. We start out questioning, wondering, and wandering. We grow, we learn, we listen. Listening, very important. We listen to what God has to say to us. And then finally, we come into the fullness of that relationship with Jesus, with God. Jesus invites us into a relationship with himself and with God. He invites us to listen to what the Spirit is telling us, to come out of our own darkness and into his light, to see him lifted up on the cross for our salvation. This is the way we know how great God's love is for us, is that Jesus went willingly to that cross. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. John 3:16. Probably the best known verse in the Bible. However, I like the next verse. The next verse says, God sent his only Son, not to judge the world, but to save it through his own actions. Pray with me. Lord, open my eyes to see God's hand at work in the world around me. Open my ears to hear the Spirit moving and whispering to me. Open my heart to see where God is calling me to be a light, a beacon for someone else who needs saving grace. Send us out, Lord, to be witnesses to your place in our lives and in our church. Amen. And while I'm at it, I'm going to recommend something. There's a movie playing right now. Sam and I went to see it on Sunday down here at the theater. It's called The Shack. I read The Shack back when it came out in 2007. And I was very hesitant to read it. I mean, people were shoving it at me, and I put it off for a long time because I knew something about the outline of the story, and I didn't want to go there. So I put it off as long as I could, and finally sat down and read, and was enthralled by it. The movie is excellent, and I highly recommend for you to go see that if you get the opportunity. It's a blessing. Now, if you're like me, you need to take Kleenex with you. My husband said it was a little humid in there, and he got sweaty eyeballs. Yeah. But I highly recommend it because I just think it has a message that this world needs to hear today. Thank you, and God bless.